Hello and welcome back to the Single Malt Review, where it is once again mini madness time. Dave's at it again. What have you come back with this time?
Well, Japanese Whisky enjoyed a meteoric rise to fame earlier this century, just with astounding quality product which came to dominate the market in a pretty big way. It soon became almost inaccessible, hence why you've hardly seen it on the show, due to sheer price and exclusivity.
Yeah, the quality wasn't the only thing rising meteorically, alas, that whole thing. But
Drinks by the Jam put together this handy-dandy tasting pack with 5 different Japanese whiskies, some blends, some single malts, I think some pure grain. Mostly from labels under the Nikka brand, so it's Yoichi and the like. However, we're going to start off with the one outlier in this pack, which is from Mars. Mars Jinshu Distillery. They're in a village in Nagano Prefecture, so somewhat alpine. They've been producing whiskey since the middle of the 20th century and producing a sochu for a number of decades before that, I believe.
Okay, so they've made the jump.
Cosmo is quite unique in that it is, well, its name suggests, quite cosmopolitan. It is not all Japanese whiskey. It is a mixture of Japanese single malt and also some Scottish single malt from unnamed distilleries. I tried this one before at Dramfest 2020 and I found it excellent, but that was at the middle of the festival, of course, so I didn't get a chance to give it
So I guess we call this blended malt?
It is a blended malt.
It is all malt.
Yeah.
But yeah, an international blended malt. And soon to be, if you're selling it pretty much anywhere, internationally illegal, because with the recent ratification of the Japanese sort of whiskey laws and regulations and so on, which news to me that they didn't even have them. They more or less went and copy-pasted the Scotch malt whiskey, sort of regulations and bylaws and so on. And one of the more glaring ones was, thou shalt not make these Frankenstein whiskies which contain malt or whatever from other parts of the world. So ones like these, which were still fairly common in Japan, less common than they used to be, but still prevalent enough, where they bring together Japanese product and then just sort of ship in some Scotch, which that's double bananas, because you haven't been able to bottle Scotch whiskey outside of Scotland for decades now. So how they're doing this is the real mystery. Are they buying bottles and decanting them in Japan? It's wild. It's crazy. I don't know.
I do believe they're probably bringing in cask strength stocks somehow, and all legit and above board, because it mentions in the notes that it has been diluted down to bottling strength using local mountain spring water. So I believe it won't be illegal for this to be sold. They'll just have to include a disclaimer that this doesn't legally count as whiskey under the current rules.
They'll have to call it spirit beverage. It's crazy. Everything about it is crazy. But yeah, just visualize it. Visualize, these just bottles of cask strength whiskey coming out the back of a truck. Whether they're just off the shelf ones, are they made specially? Are they just these super minimal labels to save money? And then uncorking all of these things and just tipping them into madness. So
this pack comes with a handy little sleeve of tasting notes, and for the Mars Cosmo, we're told the nose will offer soft vanilla, sweet red fruit, think cherries and sugary raspberry. Ooh. On the palate, we're looking for orange oil and chocolate, fresh barley, and toasty oak, and with a finish of fresh plum and white grape, with cereals and chocolate biscuits.
Well, I can say one thing: I love this nose.
Yeah.
This smells Morlac.
This is rich and deep.
It's beefy. It's got that savoury, beefy Morlac, It's been ages since I have nosed this, and the last time was a real classic Morlac. That sort of, sweet, savoury. It's people will call that note in Morlac, beefy or sort of like deglazed pan. And it's once you got.
But it's not an
nose for it.
Scottish nose.
No,
either.
not at
it's
all.
Not just Scotch whisky. There is also those unique characters which I have trouble pinning down and labelling exactly, but which do denote Japanese whisky.
Japanese whisky does have it. It's got a savouriness. It's got a dry savouriness. There's a drier.
It's kind of a grassy property. Is how I think of it.
Well, the oak is a little drier, more lifted for me. But anyway, on the palate.
It's only 43%, so I'm expecting probably not chill filtered. I don't know about colour. This could be its natural colour. I just don't know enough. This is a no age statement blended malt.
You mean it is chill filtered? Probably the the go for
At 43?
at 43. That would be.
Oh, so yeah,
It's
sure.
usually got to be 46 plus to get away with that.
Okay, fair enough.
But we will see if we add a wee bit of water. They might surprise us. So the palate's not quite as transformative as the nose. I'll give it a wee bit of water. There's a little jaggedness.
It's got a good prickle to it. There is a bit of alcohol heat despite the restrained strength, which I like. Yeah. There's possibly the faintest whiff of peat in there. Do you think?
I'd say there's
a bit of smoke anyway.
A presence,
Yeah.
maybe sub 5 ppm in there. It's certainly not a smoked whiskey by any point, but
No.
there is elements of peat. So that's that's a chill filtered whiskey there. That hasn't budged one bit. It would be not many whiskies that you could have at 43% and still have unchill filtered and not have just sit there and cloud up on the shelf. So never mind. And colour, I'd say that's probably coloured as well. That looks pretty jolly dark.
Yeah, there'd be some extremely old whiskey in there. Otherwise, which would surely make it of a label. Fair enough. It is a tasty and quite richly flavoured whiskey, though.
And the water, I think, helps. It gets it moving. But there's a slight... It's not even strictly an immaturity. I think it's just because the palate, the nose promised so much. There's a little bit of a lack of depth to this.
Yeah. I'm getting a bit of a dark chocolate and orange flavours hinted at in the notes, which is quite pleasant. It is a strong flavour. It's by no means restrained or withheld or anything. It is there in abundance. It's just not too many layers or depths to it.
Yeah, I think there's something. There's just there's a lack of depth, a slight thinness on the palate, which is all it's. And I think it really was. It was just the quality of the nose almost unfairly set this one up for failure for me, because it was such an on point nose, promised so many things, which probably unfair to expect a 43% no age statement blended malt to provide. But I think if it was smoother, it would get away with it a little easier.
It does make me more curious about what else Mars has in their range. Sadly, this is the only one I tried at Dramfest because, well, there was only so many hours in the day and so many whiskies to try.
I did try, I think, the entire range, but the hours in the day were a little advanced for a whiskey expo, as often happens. So my recollections are maybe a little more scant than they would otherwise be. But I do remember really enjoying what they had there. I'm not actually sure if I tried the Cosmo, but their sort of single malt options I thought were really, really good. This one, I don't dislike it, but I think there's going to be more standout examples of Japanese whiskey in this box, is how I'll probably pitch this one. It's a 82 for me. It's perfectly solid whiskey. I think there's something about the body that just kind of lets it down just a wee bit. I don't know. What do you think?
Oddly enough, I was centering on a similar number. 82 for me as well. It is a good melding of all that's good about Japanese and Scotch whiskey. It combines them both. Neither one is an overriding presence. There's no discordant clash of characters. It's just an all-round satisfying whiskey that's evocative of both its parent nations.
I'd love to know which Scottish whiskey they use. I guarantee you it's not Maltate. That wouldn't be very cost effective. It'll be something that's sort of cheap, marginally cheap to acquire, and God, I wish I knew the ins and outs of the process, because it must be just this legal black hole that they... it's crazy. It's really good. I wish I could see the bottling hall with there's just this great uncorking line and a bunch of people just gliding this into that. Incredible. Do they
that's
give the bottles back?
5-litre bottles of
I don't know. Do they send over jeroboams of whiskey? That'd be a good time. God, there must be a rope-a-dope in there somewhere. I don't know, but it fascinates me. Fascinates me. All right. So we're on to the next one. And we will probably be looking at something a bit more conventionally Japanese, I guess. So stick with us for that. It's Landry. We will be right back.